The education challenge we have is that most education system was set up to prepare students for jobs in corporation. This was the result, this has a history in the industrial age whereby they were expanding, building more factories, they need more accountants, more engineers, more teachers, and more lawyers, people to fill jobs. The education system was designed around educating, training the next generation to move into positions where jobs are already there for them to do whatever they need to do in this job. You choose to be a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, whatever. The problem is that the challenge is that there are just not enough jobs for the growing population now. Okay? So you get qualified, you graduate, you come out, you can't find a job. Unfortunately, this is too common a problem that's being faced by many countries. We also have a changing attitudes, the attitude towards creativity and innovative approach. Young generations, the people are becoming more creative now. In a way, they're coming up with crazy ideas, crazy approach. They're not following the norms anymore. They don't fit into the status quo. Many are rebelling, many are coming with new ideas and so on. So these are the challenges. But instead of resisting them, we need to be able to adapt and understand what the new generation needs and how we can actually enhance and build on what this new generation is about. Educating what entrepreneurship is about and developing a wider awareness of inclusiveness is the key to all this. So entrepreneurship, education, problem-solving attitude, being more inclusive in the society is what we should be focusing on now. Now, on this slide, everyone knows that we have political challenges. Okay? We are seeing increasing political divides and unrest. We are seeing trade wars. We are seeing disagreement between countries. There's even talk about wars and so on. Not something we like to do, not something we want to see, but unfortunately, this has a history behind it. Certain countries want to do things a certain way. You can never, we cannot control that, but we hope to influence leaders of the world to be able to move beyond that and look at the new development. But having said that, if you look at the global picture, I like to step back and look at what economic growth is about. Today, we measure everything by GDP, okay, or gross domestic product. Economic growth is about the increase in what a country produces over time. Okay? GDP was developed in the 1930s to help measure economic output. It is one of the most useful economic statistics, but it has been criticized for not showing or only showing a limited snapshot of economic welfare in businesses. And it doesn't reflect happiness or anything like that. It's just purely a numbers game. So in the past, where a few Western countries were leading in their economic growth, came up with the idea, if we can get everyone in the world to increase their production, increase their wealth, everybody will be happy. Okay? Unfortunately, that's not how the world works. Okay? So having the world population and country working towards developed nation status by increasing GDP as a means to improve standards of living, with increased consumerism, at least consumerism by Western standard practice, is unrealistic. We have, the United Nations have this developed country status, developing country status, and underdeveloped countries and so on. It's just a category. It is all a measure of GDP with nothing else to consider about the well-being of the people. GDP as a global measurement is not an effective way or not an effective means to measure progress for human well-being. Not from the well-being of human, not from the well-being perspective of human being. GDP does not consider that. But having said that, although we don't see GDP being abolished, we might see some adaptation of innovation, and a creative means of measuring what makes life worthwhile. I like to look at a bit of the history, how developed nation status and consumerism was, was developed in the first place. A bit of history. Now, when we talk about standard of living measurement, the standard of living measurement has a colonial past, where one part of the world can enjoy higher standards of living by extracting resources from other countries. Okay? This is causing a lot of conflict and human suffering. It is also unrealistic for more developed countries or superpowers to continue on this path. You just can't feed one part of the world by extracting resources or wealth from another part of the world. This colonial idea does not work anymore in today's world. And also consider this statistics. If you look at the ecological footprint, and you're talking about consumerism and standard of living, if everyone on this earth consumed as much as the average European, we would need 3 planets to support us. We don't have 3 planets. We only have half a planet left. Okay? So do we really want everyone to have that standard of consumerism and standard that the Europeans have? I would say no. Also consider this. Okay? If all of us were to live like an average American, we would need 5 planets. It is just not workable. It's just not realistic. It's not something that we want to encourage. Consumerism, it's totally, it's basically just overrated. It's more addressing a question of want rather a question of what we actually need. We really need to look into this. And this is not about the more the better. It's about how we live our life and what are the best areas where entrepreneurship and well-being can be shaped for the future generation that makes sense. But what are the alternatives? Well, look at Bhutan. The Bhutan government has a quote, a legal code that says that if the government cannot create happiness or social harmony for its people, there is no purpose for the government to exist. And they don't really look at GDP. Of course, they still have the GDP as a standard measure for global requirement, but they came out with the origin of gross national happiness. Okay? Also consider this, just recently, New Zealand came out with the well-being budget. This is in May 2019. It hopes to improve people's life. Now we are starting to see countries recognizing that well-being and happiness is the key and not merely improving or just raising the GDP. Money is great for you. Money can do a lot of things, but that is not the main key. It is a byproduct of what you do. Just let me add one more slide on this. The former mayor of Bogota in Colombia, Mayor Enrique, said this: a developed country is not a place where the poor drive cars. It's where the rich ride public transportation. I think this is a very reflective quote, because in today's growing urbanization, we're facing so much problems with traffic, pollution, and a whole lot of other social issues. Public transportation is starting to become a major force in trying to reshape, to solve many of the problems of urbanization. And this is very good advice, from the former mayor of Bogota. Okay? Let's look at what we really want out of all this. What we really want is economic growth. You cannot deny the fact that we need to increase wealth, we need to increase income to be able to afford the basic necessary needs and more. But in addition to economic growth, we also want happiness. At the end of the day, why do you need the money for? Or you need to make more business and so on? Because you want to generate the economy, but at the same time, you want to do it in a way that you create well-being and happiness. We are starting to see some changes in this area. with the emergence or more emergence of inclusive economies, there's more consciousness about inclusive economies, which we will go into later. Looking at entrepreneurship and leaderships, or entrepreneur and leaderships, okay? Consider that leadership is what drives families, organizations, communities, societies, economies, and nations. Good leadership basically transforms community and transforms the way that we can live our life. It creates harmony, it creates opportunity, it creates so much more well-being. Entrepreneurs are becoming role models. And entrepreneurs are basically community leaders that is creating and becoming a major force to help shape the next generation. Right? Entrepreneurs are problem solvers in their own community. They are inclusive in addressing the needs of their customers and the people they serve. Entrepreneurs are filling the gap and providing opportunities. If you look at what entrepreneurs are creating now, they're creating innovative solutions. These are some of the names, Facebook, YouTube, AirAsia, iPhone, Uber. A lot of social entrepreneurship are on the rise. Startups are disrupting traditional business. And they are disrupting in a way that is good or bad, it's a matter of opinion, but in a way that works for the community and the society that's coming on. I'd like you to also consider this. Entrepreneurship is key to peace and stability of communities, economies, and countries. When countries or communities are more inclusive and individuals are more inclusive, okay, we build a better world. We get everyone to work together, and we don't have time to talk about conflict or war or any of these things that doesn't work for humankind. We need to be building a community where we can work together and make things better. That should be the approach, and entrepreneurs are the ones that actually can foster that. Many hundred years ago, the religious leader used to rule the world. Okay? You can't make a decision unless the religious leader agreed to it. And then when the military forces came in a few hundred years ago, the military leaders ruled the world. They basically, kings and queens or whatever have to listen to the military leaders because the army controls the situation. About 100 years ago, we started to have democratic leaders, the new world order, where democratic leaders are ruling the world. But I'd like you to consider this. Each of these leaders or this group cannot cross borders, because when military cross borders, there is war. Religious leaders cannot cross border because it's a question of, my belief versus your belief. So no way they can cross borders. They have to, be polite and stop somewhere where they don't conflict with each other. Politicians definitely cannot cross borders because basically you're talking about, the ruling class, what can happen. This is my turf, that's your turf. Keep away. Let me do my own thing. The only group of people that can cross borders and cultures to make things work are the entrepreneurs. They can cross borders with no problem. They can work with different people, different culture, and make things work. Entrepreneurs need to be like-minded. They are like-minded. And they're practical people. They are inclusive. They cross borders. They adapt your culture. They work with you. It doesn't care what religion or what political difference they have. If they cross border and come and work with you, they create partnership. They just want to make the business work. In order to make the business work, they work with the community. They are inclusive with the community. They need to work things out and make it work. Okay? So, if you look at entrepreneurs, these are some pictures of entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs are the new leaders and role models. A very important role in the development of the new world order.